Good day everyone. Today we will tackle about comparative lesson under branches of linguistics. Introduction to linguistics. Our content for today is definition of linguistics, why it's important, and focus of today's lesson is comparing major branches. Linguistics is the science study of language. It looks at languages not as only as a tool for communication, but as a system with structure, patterns, and meaning. Linguists don't just learn different languages, they explore how all human languages work. Why is this important? Language influences how we think, how we relate to others, and even how societies evolve. It's essential. It's essential in fields like education, psychology, artificial intelligence, and even politics. Language is one of the most defining characteristics of our species. It's how we share thoughts, express emotions, pass down knowledge, form societies, and connect across generations. But you ha- but have you ever stopped to think what exactly is language? How is it structured? Why does it vary from place to place or even change over time? These questions leads us into the field of linguistics and more importantly its many branches. Just as medicine has cardiology, neurology, and pediatrics, or how biology includes botany, zoology, and genetics. Linguistics is also divided into specialized areas, each focusing on a different aspects of language. But rather than looking at these areas in isolation, our focus today is comparative. We will examine these branches side by side, understanding not only what they are but how they relate, overlap, and differ. This is crucial because no single branch tells the whole story of language. Instead, each offers a unique lens, and together they help us appreciate the richness and complexity of linguistic science. The goal of our comparative lesson is twofold. To explore, first is to explore the individual branches of linguistics in depth, understanding their unique contributions. And second is to the, to compare and contrast these branches, identifying their interconnections, overlaps, and differences. Why is this important? Because language is not dimensional. It's not one dimensional. Is it is at once sound, structure, meaning, use, change, and variations. Understanding the differences between shape, phonology, the study of sounds, and semantics, the study of meaning, or between sociolinguistics, language and society, and psycholinguistics, language and the mind, equips us with a more complete, nuanced understanding of how language works. This approach is especially useful for students, educators, researchers, or anyone involved in communication, translation, teaching, literature, artificial intelligence, or cultural studies. Now, before we begin to comparative analysis, let's briefly review the key branches of linguistics that with with we will working with. Phonetics, the physical sound of speech. Phonology, the abstract sound system and rules. Morphology, the structure of words. And syntax is how words form their sentences. Semantics, the meanings of words and sentences. And the pragmatics is language in context and actual use. Social and social linguistic is language and society. And and next one is psycholinguistics, language and the brain and mind. And next one is historical linguistics, language evolution over time. And next is applied linguistics, practical applications like language teaching or translation. These branches can be grouped and compared in various ways. For instance, form focus. For instance, fo- uh, form focus versus meaning focus, phonology versus semantics, structure versus use, syntax versus pragmatics, individual versus social, psycholinguistics versus sociolinguistics, descriptive versus applied, theoretical linguistics versus applied linguistics. As you can see, these are not merely isolated categories. They interact and overlap, often in surprising and insightful ways. A comparative approach allows us to do more than just memorize definitions. It pushes us to ask how does one branch inform or limit another? What methods or tools do they share? How does context like culture, cognition, or history affect what we study in which area? What happens when two branches disagree in their interpretation? For example, a semantics might define meaning based on sentence structure, while a pragmatician argues that meaning depends on context. Uh, then, a phonologist might focus on the patterns of sounds in the mind, while a phonetician look at the physical production of those sounds. These tensions and connections are exactly make the field of linguistics so intellectually rich. The real world relevance is understanding the branches of linguistics. Comparatively isn't just academic. It has real world applications. In language teaching. In language teaching, knowing syntax and pragmatics helps improve grammar and communication. In a in AI and speech, in AI and speech recognition, phonetics and syntax are key to making machines understands us in translation. Semantics and social linguistics help bridge not just word but cultures. In therapy or cognitive studies, psycholinguistics can assist with speech or language disorders. Um, so as we begin this comparative lesson, I invite you to think of linguistics not as a fragmented puzzle, but as a map of interconnected territories, each revealing something different about the landscape of language. Our task is to travel through these territories, observing how they complement, challenge, and complete one another. By the end of this lesson, you won't just know what each branch is, you will understand or how they all work together to make sense of the most powerful tool we possess as humans, language. Today we will explore the major branches of linguistics. Think of this as the different lenses used to study specific aspect of language. We'll compare them to better understand how they each contribute to the broader fields. Major branches of linguistics. The first one is phonetics and phonology. Second, morphology. Third, syntax. Fourth, semantics. Fifth, pragmatics. And sixth, sociolinguistics. And last one is psycholinguistics. Phonology. Phonology is explain minimal pairs like but, and introduce annotation patterns in English. Morphology is types of morphemes, free bound, derivational, inflectional, and word formation processes. Morphology is show how new words from in English and happiness redo. Syntax, sentence structures and rules, word order in different languages. Syntax in compare English, like SVO with Japanese, and SOV and Filipino sentence patterns. Next one is semantics, lexical semantics, sentence semantics, and ambiguity and polysemy. Ah, Semantics is used bank, riverbank versus financial institution as a polysemy example. Next one is pragmatics, contextual meaning, lexis, implicature, and politeness. Pragmatics is discussed indirect speech, acts, and why is called in here might mean close the window. Next one is sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics, language and society, code switching, and dialects and registers. Sociolinguistics show how local dialects in the Philippines and how people switch between Tagalog and English. And next one is psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics like language acquisition and processing. First language versus second language learning. Like psycholinguistics is used example of child language development stages or slips of the tongue. Next one is neurolinguistics, brain and language, aphasia and Broca's and Wernicke's areas. Neurolinguistics is mention how brain injuries affect speech and understanding. Next is applied linguistics, solving real-world language issues. Second is language teaching translation, like an AI. Applied linguistics explain how applied linguistics help develop language apps and teaching methods and etc. Next one is historical linguistics. First is language change over time. Second is language families sound shifts. Historical linguistics is use night, silent K as an example of sound change. Next is computational linguistics. Natural languages, language processing. Next is chatbot, machine translation. Computational is relate this to how system like ChatGPT process your language. Next one is forensics linguistic. Language in legal context, voice identification, authorship, attribution. Forensic is mention how linguists help solve crimes through language clues. Next one is we compare descriptive versus prescriptive. Type, descriptive. The definition of descriptive is define how language is used, and example of descriptive is ain't is used informally. Next type is prescriptive. Definition of prescriptive is tells how language should be used. The example of prescriptive is ain't is grammatically incorrect. Many people confuse grammar rules prescriptive with how people naturally speak descriptive. Both are valuable in different contexts. Next one is interdisciplinary connections. First, linguistics plus psychology equals psycholinguistics. Next is linguistic plus AI equals computational linguistics. The third one is linguistics plus sociology equals sociolinguistics. Uh, Interdisciplinary highlight how linguistics is connected to many other academic fields. Uh, Next one we'll compare is phonetics versus phonology. The branch is phonetics. The focus of phonetics is physical sounds of speech, and an example is how P sounds are made. Next branch is phonology. So the focus is sounds patterns in language. The example is why knife has silent K. Phonetics, physical sounds of speech, how P sounds are made, and phonology are sound patterns in phonolic sounds like why knife has silent K. Phonetics is all about the actual sounds we make. It studies how sounds are produced by the vocal cords, articulatory and how they travel, acoustic and how they are heard, auditory, and for example, the P sound in pen and spin is the same letter, but it sounds slightly different. And phonology, on the other hand, is about the rules of sounds in languages. Why do some letters remain silent? Why can some sounds occur together and others can't? Phonology helps us understand these patterns. In English, the K in knife is silent, but that's not random. It's a result of historical sound changes. Next one is morphology versus syntax. Morphology focus structure. The focus is structure of words. The example of morphology is unhappiness equals un plus happy plus ness. Next is syntax. The focus of syntax is sentence structure. And the example of syntax is she is running versus running she is. Morphology structures of words. Unhappiness equals un plus happy plus ness. Syntax sentence structure, she is running versus running she is. Morphology studies how words are built. Think of words like puzzle, made of morphemes, the smallest units of meaning. In unhappiness, there are there and negation. Happy, root, and ness, state or condition. Morphology helps us understand word creation and grammar. Rules like pluralization and tense. And syntax moves us up a level from words to sentence. It's the study of sentence structure, the order of words and how they combine to create meaning. For example, she is running follows proper in English syntax, but running she is. Sound and unless you're Yoda. Different languages have different syntactic rules. Next is semantics versus pragmatics. The branch is semantics. The focus of semantics is literal meaning. And the example of semantics is dog equals a four-legged animal. Next one is pragmatics. The focus of pragmatics is meaning and context. Context. The example is can you pass the salt as a request? Semantics is the study of literal meaning. It asks what does a word or sentence means on its own. If I say the cat is on the mat, semantics tell us who and where the cat is. Words are like containers filled with the meaning, but pragmatics is where things get interesting. It looks at context. For example, if I say, "Can you pass the salt at dinner?" Can you pass at the salt at dinner? I'm not asking if you're physically able to do it. I'm politely asking you to hand it over. Pragmatics help us understand irony, sarcasm, indirect speech, and more. Next one is sociolinguistic versus pragmatics. Sociolinguistic focus language and society, and the example is dialect, slang, language change. Next is psycholinguistics. The focus of psycholinguistics is language and the mind. For example, the sample is how children acquire language. Sociolinguistics studies how language interacts with society, and it explored dialects like how English sounds different in the US versus in the UK, and how people use language differently based on gender, class, or culture, and how language changes over time. Psycholinguistic is the study of language is processed in the mind. It asks questions like how do babies learn language? And how do we remember words? What happened in the brain during reading? It combines linguistics with psychology and neuroscience. Comparison summary. The branch is phonetics, focus areas, physical sounds. Branch phonology, focus area sound system. Branch morphology, the focus area is word formation. Syntax, the focus area is sentence structure. Semantics, focus area meaning of words. Pragmatics, focus area meaning in context. Sociolinguistics, focus area language in society. Psycholinguistics, focus area language and mind. And the conclusion is all branches are interconnected. Next, understanding them helps in language teaching, AI communication, etc. Third, key takeaway, language is complex and multifaceted.
13 lang, girl.
Is sound and unless you're Yoda. Different languages have different syntactic rules. Next is semantics versus pragmatics. The branch is semantics. The focus of semantics is literal meaning. And the example of semantics is dog equals a four-legged animal. Next one is pragmatics. The focus of pragmatics is meaning and context. Context. The example is, can you pass the salt as a request? Semantics is the study of literal meaning. It asks what does a word or sentence means on its own. If I say the cat is on the mat, semantics tell us who and where the cat is. Words are like containers filled with the meaning, but pragmatics is where things get interesting. It looks at context. For example, if I say, can you pass the salt at dinner? Can you pass at the salt at dinner? I'm not asking if you're physically able to do it. I'm politely asking you to hand it over. Pragmatics help us understand irony, sarcasm, indirect speech, and more. Next one is sociolinguistic versus pragmatics. Sociolinguistic focus language and society, and the example is dialect, slang, language change. Next is psycholinguistics. The focus of psycholinguistics is language and the mind. For example, the sample is how children acquire language. Sociolinguistics studies how language interacts with society, and it explored dialects like how English sounds different in the US versus in the UK, and how people use language differently based on gender, class, or culture, and how language changes over time. Psycholinguistic is the study of language is processed in the mind. It asks questions like how do babies learn language? And how do we remember words? What happened in the brain during reading? It combines linguistics with psychology and neuroscience. Comparison summary. The branch is phonetics, focus areas, physical sounds. Branch, phonology, focus area, sound system. Branch, morphology, the focus area is word formation. Syntax, the focus area is sentence structure. Semantics, focus area, meaning of words. Pragmatics, focus area, meaning in context. Sociolinguistics, focus area, language in society. Psycholinguistics, focus area, language and mind. And the conclusion is all branches are interconnected. Next, understanding them helps in language teaching, AI communication, etc. Third, key takeaway, language is complex and multifaceted.
13 lang, girl.
Now that we explored and compared the major branches of linguistics, from phonetics to social linguistics, let's step back and reflect. Why do we study these branches separately? And yet, why is it important to compare them side by side? This concluding segment will tie everything together, helping us see how each branch plays a unique role but none works in isolation. When we compare the branches of linguistics, we're not just listing their definitions. We're actually learning how they relate and support each other. Um, phonet- Phonetics versus phonology, physical sounds versus abstract abstract sound system. Morphology versus syntax is word formations versus sentence contract structure, and they rely on each other for meaning making. Then semantics versus pragmatics is literal meaning versus context based meaning, showing how shifts in use. Then social linguistic versus psycholinguistics, external social factors versus internal cognitive processing. Through comparison, we see language as a layered system. Every layer depends on the others to make communication meaningful. Then 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 think think about how these branches appear in everyday life. For example, when someone speaks a dialect, they're applying phonological, syntactic, and sociolinguistic knowledge. Stimulus, simultaneously, or consider language learning. A learner must grasp grammar, syntax and morphology, pronunciation, phonetics, meaning, and the meaning is semantics and cultural cues, pragmatics and social linguistics. In short, linguistics branches are not isolated theories. They are practical tools to understand how we speak, how we speak, think, learn, and relate. Why we comparative linguistics? Um, in comparing branches, we unlock a holistic view of language. This matters because it helps education design better curriculum. It supports language learner in building more complete skills, and it aids res- it aids it aids researchers in solving linguistics problems from multiple angles, and it allows us all to appreciate the richness of language diversity and structure. Each branch answers different questions, but together they form a complete story. Mm, to conclude the comparative lesson has shown us that while each branch of linguistics specialize in one aspects of language, none can fully explain language alone. It's only through comparison that we see that we see the full complexity and beauty of human communication.